Go. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining me today. I have the honor of having Anthony Amoako-Attah join me today, all the way from Sutherland. And he is our presenter for November's Not Grandma's Glass presentation, which is now in its 11th month. It's been an amazing ride, and we're honored to have him. He was one of the first people to reply and pick his month and join in for this event. And he has been sharing consistently on social media for a while now, and I've been paying attention to his career and his colors and the beauty that he creates and the message that he's going to talk about today. So I'm going to quickly take over your screen and just kind of go through some housekeeping about Habatat and what's going on. We have oopsie, oh, that's amazing, just disappeared entirely. I wonder how that happened. Let's kick it back in. Thank you. Oh, I'm at the end of my show. That's probably why. All right, give me 1 second to scroll back to the beginning of my show. Thank you so much. Here we go. Okay, Habatat. We have our dates picked out for the Glass Coast weekend in St. Petersburg and Sarasota. End of January, we're going to be having our place partnering with the Ringling College of Art and Design. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're hopefully to have our second in-person event scheduled, a real in-person event for that weekend. So plan ahead and call us for the details. We're hammering them out this week. Our 50th exhibition is still on display. We've had a lot of people, and I mean a lot of people come through for private tours and see the gallery. You're all invited, all that kind of stuff. It's quite an astounding show. Yeah, that wraps it up for the messages. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and go ahead and unmute yourself, Anthony. Can you click that button, because I can still see that little red microphone. There you are. Okay. Well, say hello to everybody, please.
Should I share my screen now?
Sure. We'll say hi, everybody, first, then go ahead and share.
Hello.
Good enough.
Hello, everyone. Hello, my name is Anthony.
Anthony is, there we go. Perfect. All right, go ahead and click on the old icon for making the presentation go. It's probably on the bottom of your screen. You can't see it. There you go. Yep, you do the same thing. Go back to the top. The same scenario I'm in.
Yeah.
Great.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Annie. You're all here eager to learn more about you, your work, and your career. So thank you again.
All right. Thank you very much, Aaron. Hello, everyone, once again. My name is Anthony Amoako-Attah, and currently I'm doing my PhD in Sunderland, United Kingdom, and then majoring in glass. Yeah. And today I'll be talking about myself, about my life, about my art, where I started from and where I want to be and where I'm going. Yeah. And today I'll be talking about rites of passage. That's the topic that I've chose for today's presentation. And I said I'll be talking about myself. Originally, I'm from Ghana, and I'll talk about a little bit about Ghana, about the Akan clan, my education, my life experience in Ghana, and also life in UK. Life in Ghana, let me say, is a bit hot as compared to being in England. The weather, and back home, as a kid, I did art in junior high school. Then from there, I went to my senior high school to do visual art. And then I went to the university where I did industrial art. And then industrial art in Ghana, like we have a foundation where we do ceramics, metals, and textiles. So in my second year, I opted for ceramics. And within the second year, we had a presentation with one of our lecturers about the idea of establishing glass in the section. So it's like me and my colleagues were so happy about, having glass within the session. So we waited for second year, it passes by, third year, final year, it couldn't happen. I think during my third year, they brought the metal work, the metal frame for glass blowing and stuff, but we couldn't. And then from there, as in my third year, we were thinking that before we finish school, we could. But during the fourth year, my lecturers, they went to America. They went to America. They brought some samples of glass. That was when we saw, like, let me say, glass art, glass made as an art piece, because most of the stuff, most of the glass that comes, that are in Ghana are all imported. Really, most of them, about 90% are imported into Ghana. So when we saw it, it was so fascinating about how fragile the material is, how optical, the transparency. I love that much. And I told myself that, I wanted to learn something about this material. So from there, when I finished uni, I spoke to one of my supervisors that, I wanted to go and learn glass as a material. So I went through online search for schools outside because there was no school in Ghana doing glass. So I went through and I saw University of Sunderland. So I did apply, got the university, and then I went back to my supervisor to tell him that, I've gotten a uni a uni in Sunderland to do glass. So I came back to him so that we could probably, if the university back home even could get like a scholarship or part of the fees, because it was very expensive. Like I think it was about 12,000 something pounds. Then that was 2015. So I went through, it couldn't happen. So that was in 2014. That was when I had the first admission. So I had to defer. And then I did apply for my second, so my second year, like my second term, I came over where my dad, my dad supported me with the fees and everything. So when I came in, I would say I came in October. And then one funny thing is coming from Ghana in a hot climate and then coming to England in October, it was raining, it was cold, it was freezing. So when I came, it's like everything was totally different. And due to visa processing, I was a bit late. So when I came in, they have already started uni. Like they have already started the program. So I think that was in October. I came around, I think the 15th of October, and they have already started. And one of my experience that, I always talk about is when I came in and my first day, I think that was on Tuesday night, I took the uni bus to uni. And we started around 5 p.m. and we ended around 7, around 8, 9. So when I came back to the bus station, there was no bus, So, and one funny thing is I didn't even know my postcode because when I came on Saturday, I went to uni on Tuesday. I didn't even know, like I knew my postcode, but I didn't know it, the direction and everything. So I was just there and the shuttle came, one of the school shuttles came. And then I told the bus driver that, I'm going to this place, and the bus driver didn't even know that. So I had to tell, you just go and drop me at one of the university accommodation. I'll just walk home. Because I knew where the accommodation was to my house. So I just told you, go and drop me over here. Around 9, it was freezing and it was so cold. I just told him, you just go and drop me over there. I'll just go home. So he went, drop me over there, and I walked to the house.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and yes, I just walked to the house, and then the next day I got to know, the surroundings and everything, and then I went to uni. So my life, like way back from my education, way back from Ghana, like 2005, as I said, I did art, then I went to Oseti Boys College. That's where I did my visual art, and then from there, I went to Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology in Ghana. And then 2015, I came to do my master's. Yeah. And then from there, 2017, I came back to start my PhD. So let me say, this is my school life, really. Yeah.
Gotcha. I was watching your video and you said that you were using Google to help you find this place in Sutherland. And
Yes.
That's basically what happened is your research led you there naturally.
Yeah, Yeah.
It's fun.
Oh, yeah. And then from there, let me say, back to, 2015 in the University of Stanford, like my UK life, So from there, my supervisor has already given them, that was called Jeff Samiento, has already given them an assignment in screen painting. So they have already started. And during my year group, they were all ladies. And then I was the only guy within the group. So it's like, and they knew something about glass. And one thing is, coming from Ghana, I did ceramics. So I only knew, let me say, ceramics, not glass. So it's like, was a new material to me, for me to learn. And most of my colleagues, they have the basic knowledge about it. So they have already started with screen printing. I did my designs. I showed it to my supervisor. He did love it. So I transferred the designs. My colleagues helped me to transfer the designs on glass. And then I started, So our second, I think our third meeting, he asked us to make sketches, what we want to do. So I designed my own and I showed it to my supervisor. That was Jeff. And he said, no, if this is what you want to do, no, that you are in the wrong place. When he saw my sketches, I said, wow. So I went back again, made a whole lot of sketches. And then I went to show to him and said, wow, yeah, now you're in the right place. So we started from there. And then I would say when I came in my department, I was the only black guy over there. So everybody was just white, So it's like, when you're in, everybody knows you're in. When you're out, everybody knows that you're out. So I think the accent was a big problem for me because one, my supervisor speaks very quick, very, very quick. And then people from, let me say, the north of England, their accent is too thick. It's very hard for you to understand their accent as compared to those in London. So one day I told my supervisor that, the best way for me to understand him and also understand the program is for me to record audio and video so that anytime when I go home, I'll be able to understand what is being taught. So he organized classes for us. That was when he organized classes for us to learn. We did casting. We did a bit of flame work, printing, and hot glass for us to find where where I could find myself within the glass world. So from there, I decided to, let me say, learn about casting. But back home, I did something about casting. So I know something about casting. So I decided to focus my knowledge, my attention and everything within that sector. So I was doing a whole lot of casting, a lot. So let me say back home, this was the piece that I was making, like my ceramic pieces, So I made this work, that was 2010. That was my first ceramic, some of my ceramic pieces I made, that Supremacy of Books, So that was the first work I made back home in Ghana. So the idea was about, you can learn everything, but without the Bible or without God attached to it, you are nothing. So that was the idea behind this book, that, you can learn ceramics, you can learn so many books, but without, that's where I'm coming from, my religious background. So that was the first book, the first piece that I made. And then I made Protection, that's a mother and a child. That was also in ceramics. That's another piece that I made 2010. And then I made this piece, my basket, where, back home I used to do a whole lot of work and then I saved the money. So I was thinking about basket, where to save my money, knowledge, time. So the word was about how do we save our money? How do we protect our resources? So that was about this work, and it was mixed media. So when I came to England, when I came to England, and I showed my supervisor my sketches and everything that I wanted to do. These are some of the things, based on the discussion with him, always run with me, like these are some of the things that we normally talk about in my work, like my influences. That was like life chances, immigration, integration, symbols and patterns. So from, let me say, my masters, these were some of the things that ran through my work, So these were the things that I was dealing with as during my master's. Oh, so great. Just, yeah. So then during my master's, going back, as I was saying, when I came in, and then the first thing was I was late. I couldn't get the bus. And then guess the second thing was dressing code.
Mhm.
My dressing code just changed, coming from Ghana and looking at the weather now, it was freezing cold. You have to always be in a jacket, jumper, and everything. I couldn't wear my the normal dress that I wear in Ghana. And I felt like I was losing my identity, like the things that I used to wear, I'm not my food and everything, I was losing it. And then university life and social life as well, like everything just changed. So I was just thinking about those things. And then I just said, how can I make something to represent myself? What can I do to represent myself within this kind of culture? So from there, I tried to finding my identity within UK and also within the glass world. And that was when I started with writing things down, like things that I've been going through. I started to write ideas and then develop concept around it. So the first one was reality and plan, so reality, plan, transition, beauty within. All these are some of the artworks that, so sometimes with me, the idea comes, I put it down, then I begin to develop the ideas into so many things. So the first work that I did after we had been taught casting, by one of our technicians, was called Steve. So I made my first piece, that was Beauty Within. That was the first piece that I made. And the glass, I bought the glass from him from China, that's China glass. So I bought this piece, which I first made in clay and then made a plaster, cast the piece, and then I did that. I was still trying to learn the process, like how to do the polishing and all kinds of stuff within the material. So as I said, I did ceramics. I was still having a bit of a conflict between ceramic and glass, where to locate myself. So I did a bit of, most of my piece that I was doing, I was incorporating ceramics into it. So with this cast, I made like a beauty within is how a man is appreciating the love for his woman, his partner. So it was about how a man is appreciating the love for his partner. So I was thinking, how would I be able to appreciate glass? So I was trying to, how do I appreciate glass? How do I appreciate, so I try to understand glass as how a man understands his partner. So with that, I tried to make a work within that. So I made a work in 2016. That was kiln cast, code work, and then water jet. And from there, I started with reality and plan. As a kid, my my dream is to become a teacher. So when I was in senior high school and I saw my teachers, I said I wanted to be a teacher. When I went to the university and I saw my lecturers, how they were teaching, I told myself that I wanted to be a lecturer. And I don't want to teach in a senior high school now. I want to teach in a university. So as a kid, I thought life was just a straight line. That was what I thought as a kid, that this is what I want to make, Everybody, so when you're a kid, learn hard, you become, learn and you become this and that and that. But I didn't know that like life is not just a straight line, it's ups and downs. So my first work that I made from the hot shop was I made pebbles and I started incorporating patterns and symbols from Ghana. And then, as I said, still trying to locate myself. I always try to incorporate ceramics into my pieces. So this work was about my life, thinking that life was just a straight line. So on the other side of the piece of my artwork, you see I made like a straight line of glass pebbles. And the other ones, it flows that way. So I was trying to talk about myself within the glass world that, life is not just a straight line, it's ups and downs. And on each glass, there are symbols and patterns talking about what I've been through in life, and where I want to be, and the determination that I want to learn this material, because I only had just 1 year to finish, learn, and go back home and go and teach. So it's like my focus and everything was just on campus. It's like I was on campus like every day, Monday to Friday, just learning the material, how to understand this material, this optical material, this transparency, you know. So it was just like me and glass. I just want to understand this material, the firing process, everything about this material. And then let me say, that's where the transition started. So all this work we're doing my master's. So with this piece is a glass that I bought from one of my technicians from China, black glass. So that was in my final year for my master's. I made this piece, when I sat down to reflect about what I've learned within the year. I felt that I've learned so many things. So how can I represent myself within the glass art or within the glass world? So I bought this glass from this person, the black glass, to represent myself. So I was trying to represent myself as a black person within the Northeast, within Sunderland, within the university, within the department, because in my department, I felt like I was the only person, only the black guy within this. And that was the first time a black person, coming over from Africa, Ghana, to come and do glass within the university. So when I bought this glass, I'll buy a black glass, put my culture on it to represent myself. So the white background was representing the community in which I find myself. And with the flow of the pattern was about my own life. I was talking about myself that, from the process, from where I started, then this is where I'm going to go. Life is not a straight line. It's all about determination. So the symbols, the patterns and everything on it is just talking about myself and where I want to be. And, during my master's, like some of my friends, my colleagues, the other black people around, sometimes we do meet and then we do ask ourselves, what course are you offering? Some will be like engineering, medicine, nursing, and then I used to tell them doing art. Then the reaction will be like, wow, art. Which kind of art? Glass. So what are you going to do after school? It's like back home is like like parents, we want our kids to do like a course where probably maybe at the end of the month you get paid, like a monthly base, work. So doing art, they're thinking, what can you do? Like when you finish uni, is there any job for you to do? So when I made this piece, it was about the reflection of all the things that I've been through, during the year period. So I tried to put them to make a composed piece of work, art. So this was one of my final pieces that I finished doing mine.
Is this piece flat or does this go on the wall? How am I looking at it?
It's on the wall.
Oh,
it's
wow,
a flat
okay. Wall installation. Okay, very
installation. Yeah.
Lots of detail. There are lots of every single tile you can kind of sink into and learn more and more about.
Yeah. So from there, I finished my master's. I went back home, from master's, I passed to America, then I came back home. So when I went back home, I went to the university, I finished my master's, is it possible for me to, to come in? To come and teach. I submitted my application and what happened, what they said was now they are not accepting master students. They want people with PhD. I said, wow. Yeah. So it all comes back to, the reality and plan, about how I planned that, I spoke to my teacher, my lecturer back home, before doing the masters that, I'm going back, you go, when you come back, I'll be able to push you into the system, and after all these things and coming back, it's like now there's no, unless you go and do a PhD, otherwise, you can't. So I spoke to them, I spoke to my dad as well, my dad is very lovely. I do appreciate my dad, where I am today, I would say it's my dad, my family, And so when I spoke to my dad about it, that I want to go back and do my PhD, my dad just accepted it and said, yeah, I'll support you. So I came back in, and before I came in, I did a whole lot of research, about what I want to do for my PhD, and within the research, there was one lady from China. She had completed a PhD, and within her thesis, he wrote that when she learned glass from, let me say, she learned it from England. Whatever they taught her within the contemporary setting, that's what he's teaching people back home in China. So she felt like she's teaching European glass art instead of Chinese glass art. When she looks like the thing that she has taught her student. So when I read about that and other PhD, I felt like, no, if I want to go back home to teach glass, then I need to bring something within my culture with this material, so that when I go back home, it will be very easy for me to teach my people, so that was when the idea of incorporating my own, let me say, my own designs, coming, my own culture, my identity. So that was when I started with making sketches how I could incorporate my culture within glass. So the first thing that came was, how do I represent my culture? And one of my influences was, one of the artists was Yinka Shonibera, and one was El Anutuse, and there was another guy, he's in America, he's called Preston, So when I look at their work, they were trying to talk something about their culture within a different material. So okay, then if that's the case, I will start with my culture, kente patterns and Adinkra symbols. In my masters, I was incorporating more of the Adinkra symbols on a clear glass, like transparent. So I started with printing, and the idea was how to make glass look like a woven fabric. That was my PhD. The idea is how to make glass look like a woven fabric. Paying respect to my culture, my identity with Adinkra symbols and kente patterns. So from there, I came in, made a whole lot of initially I wanted to weave glass like kente. So I bought a lot of strings. I tried, but one was cost and also time. So I had to drop it. And then I started with strip weaving. I cut the glass, print on it, cut the glass, I learned from YouTube just to see how it could work. It couldn't work. So I spoke with my supervisor, and we're trying to create, how we could make glass looks like a woven fabric. So we sorted to printing. So with printing, that was where I started to do with the printing. So that was my first printing that I made. The first print, and I start to stitch them together to see whether it's possible for me to make glass look like a woven fabric. So the first one I used enamel to print, and I didn't how I wanted to look like, I got the pattern right, but the feel, the texture, the tactile feeling, I wasn't getting it. So I made the second piece, I made my second piece. I was trying all means to make sure that the glass looks like a woven fabric. So I made this piece, the ironing board, just the iron. But I was that's where I started to iron my culture within the glass. So all this process, I was trying to iron myself within the glass. So that was another piece that I made. And then so the breakthrough started from here. 2019, I started to develop this work by when I saw one of my colleagues, she was doing printing using powders. So I approached her and I asked her, could she teach me how to, how to use powder printing? And since she saw me using enamels, she just asked me if I could continue with the enamel because I was very good when it comes to using the enamels to print. So, but I told myself that no, I'm still going to try how to use powders, to print. So I went home, did a lot of computer aid designs, and then what I did, I made a sample. And when I made a sample, I showed it to my supervisor. And when he saw it, he said, wow, we were so amazed about the test piece that I made. And then, when I made the test piece, I wasn't still getting that kind of feeling, that kind of tested feeling. So I continued to develop. And when I developed, I got what I wanted. Then I made this piece transition 2. So transition 2 was made like in 2020. And then the idea was, now I've gotten to understand glass, so how do I represent myself within it? So I made this piece to represent myself. So right now I was talking about myself. So with the flow of the pattern from reality and plan, this work was talking about myself, like a transition from whatever I've learned from my master's and then my first year as a PhD to my second year as a PhD student. So this work was transition 2, talking about myself within the glass world, representing my identity. So on top of it, that's the tartan fabric. So I told myself, no, I'm in the North. And one of the fabrics that is represented by, let me say, is well known in England, or let me say in the UK, is the tartan fabric, which is from the Scottish people. So I incorporated Scottish, fabric into my work with Sunderland crest on top of it to let people know the knowledge that I'm tapping from the University of the Sunderland and the people within myself. So this work was about myself, my culture, the people around, the knowledge that I've gotten from. So I think that was in ending of 2020. My supervisor asked me to enter into a competition. That was Bullseye. So that was when I entered into the Bullseye competition, So when I was about to enter, that was they asked me to pay for membership. I didn't want to pay because I was thinking, I didn't want to pay, but I said, let me just pay. So I did pay and I entered into it. And when it came, I wasn't even expecting, when it came, I won the prize. So I was so shocked, to win it, to win it, I was so shocked. And let me say, that was the breakthrough, for me, because during that time, I was so stressed with so many things. So when this award came, that was a breakthrough for me. And then I had an interview with my supervisor, but from Bullseye asked my supervisor to interview me, and also they bought my piece as well. So I sent them I sent them a request that if they could send me glass for free, which they did. I was so surprised that they sent out glass worth more than, I think, it's about $3,000 or something. They sent it over to me for me to explore the material, because one thing is I told them I wanted to learn this material, So they sent it to me, I did explore about it, and I made so many pieces out of it. And then, so after that piece, I started with what I want to talk about today, Rites of Passage, Rites of Passage. I think I'll just, as I talk, there's a video at the background. I'll just play it along. I'll just wait for the video to play, then I'll continue to talk about it. Rites of Passage is a piece that I did during the lockdown, and it talks about where I'm coming from. In Ghana, in that can, where I'm coming from, we have about 4 stages in life, where you have birth, puberty, marriage, and death. So in order to establish myself within the glass world, I wanted to take my culture and then represent it in it. So the first stage of life is birth. And one thing is I'm trying to make glass look like a woven fabric. And with Rites of Passage, within that period, there is, let me say, there are fabrics that we wear to celebrate that kind of periods in our life. So when you come to that can, during the first period, let me say birth, when ladies give birth, there's a whole lot of ceremony that goes on. And then we wear white, white, black, yellow, gold colors, to represent that kind of victory. That because we believe that when a lady is going to give birth, the lady is between, it's between death, and victory. So when you're able to give birth, there's that kind of victory, that kind of joyous, atmosphere. So I try to represent that kind of period with colors, to depict my culture and also add symbols to emphasize on it. So the flow of pattern or the video that we just watched is trying to talk about, let me say, the period that happens within the rite. Yeah. So the first after birth, I try to represent this. I made this piece out of the rite of passage. I call it puberty. Puberty is when they usher a child, like back home, when a child, or when, let me say, a girl have a start a menstrual cycle, they take the lady to go and see, let me say, the queen mother, and then she, they have a whole lot of rite. And at the end of the period, they present bright colors, like kente cloth, give the lady gifts and all kinds of stuff. So I try to use bright color to represent that kind of period, where a girl child is given like kente cloth, and other kinds of stuff. So I was trying to represent that kind of period within that rite. So the pictures that we see of, or let me say, the image or the artwork you see over here is talking about what we do during, that stage.
The fold in the work. This is very
Yeah.
important about the change and about individuals going through time wearing this particular object if it was wearable.
Yeah.
And this is also in this puberty piece where that is the big change in life.
Yeah. Yeah. So every fold that you see within the art piece, there is a change, yeah. Every fold that you see in my works, sometimes with the fold, it brings the work a bit down. So when it's coming down, I'm trying to talk about sometimes in life, you can't go like a straight line. Sometimes certain things happen in life and then you lose hope, like you lose everything, but with determination and with progress, you can still make it. So anytime there is a fold in, in my piece, it's either something is declining, or something is going up, talking about how reality things are. And then from there, I made the marriage stage, where marriage, bright colors, it's like everybody, that kind of joyful atmosphere. Everybody's so happy, married, bed, there's going to be like kids and other stuff. So this piece is also talking about marriage. And with the symbols and with the colors, they all talk about, let me say, how joyful we are when during this kind of period. Yeah. And then the last stage is death. In Ghana, death, most of the cloth that we wear, is, let me say, red and black, and then we believe that the age limit, when you pass the age of 70, there's a grace period. And with a grace period, mostly we wear white and black for old people instead of wearing like red and black, So the piece over here is trying to talk about the death pattern in Ghana. So the red, white is representing our culture, like when someone dies, and these are the kind of fabrics that we do wear. Yeah. So, and mostly it starts from Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Mostly we go to church for Thanksgiving and all those, and we normally wear white and black. Yeah. So with the rites of passage and all, I was trying to talk something about myself, as a kid, where I've been, and then now I feel like I'm in my marriage, right? That's the period, and I believe that at the end, everybody's going to die. So this is what I represented. Like I was just trying to represent myself as well within the glass world. And then from there, these are some of the pieces that I've also made. This is mirror on the wall. How do you see yourself? When you look at your piece. So this work is just, it's about how do I see myself, within it. So I was just trying to talk about myself really within the piece. How do you see glass?
Each of the works that you are creating have the symbols in them, the
Yeah.
Kante symbols, and each of these symbols have meaning that relate to the topic at hand of each piece.
Yes.
Just clarifying for everybody that the imagery that is in the pieces each have relative meaning to the culture, the Kante culture, representing exactly what he's trying to portray. So for us, the symbolism, in our American culture, we'd recognize, while this we will not, though we could easily learn about each of these individual symbols and what they mean.
Yeah. So each symbol, in the account, we have like the Edinkwa symbol. Each symbol has a meaning, and each piece. When you see my piece, most of my pieces, I try to add a symbol to represent what I'm talking about. And like with this piece, the symbol on it is called Jinyami. Like that's the local dialect, Jinyami.
Mhm.
But in English, supremacy of God. So it's talking about that without God, you are nothing. And I believe that sometimes I tell myself that, nobody can harm me apart from God. Because most of my pieces, I try to use those symbols to enlighten the fabric. And these symbols, they have philosophical meaning that is being understood by the people within them. Let me say the people within the culture. So, for example, if you go to within the culture, if you're within the culture, or if you know the symbol, when you go to someone's house, in front of the house, if you see that symbol, you'll be able to know that, okay, this place is a church, this place is a fetish priest, this place is a king, based on the symbol that you see on the wall. If you do understand the symbol, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So from there, that was 2021. I was living in in an area in Sunderland where I was racially abused. I had a car. My car that I had was attacked. The people over there destroyed my car. Let me say, So I was so sad in the house, and then I was just making some sketches, and I made this work, and I made a design. I drew the umbrella, and I just thought that whatever has happened, I'm going to use that period to create a work of art. So I created this work out of that build that I went through. That the umbrella. I'm trying to protect myself within a kind of culture that I find myself. So out of grief, I created this nice piece I call the umbrella, the protection, because I felt myself that over here, if I was back home, something like this wouldn't have happened. So I made this piece as a means to protect myself within a culture. So this piece is I call the umbrella, but as a means of protecting myself. I'm protecting myself within a culture using a different medium that I feel that I can use to communicate how I felt. So this piece was about protection, about what I went through. That was the beginning of 2021, based on the racial abuse that I had from where I was staying. Yeah.
Was this attack this year, 2021?
Yeah. January 2021. Yeah.
Wow. Powerful
Yeah.
piece. Is that real size?
Yeah. The size is about, it's a real size of an umbrella. It's quite big. It's about 60 centimeters by 60 centimeters. It's quite big.
Quite big, yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Powerful.
Yeah. And then I made this work. I call it the stored identity. When that was one. I think that was last year. when George Floyd, that incident happened about Black Lives Matters, happened, I was looking at what was going on about, people talking about Black Lives Matters. And in one of the articles that I read, there was a Democrat, they represented themselves with a stole from, one of the textiles, the kente pattern, as a means of showing the identity, the African identity. So when I saw the piece, and coming from Africa, coming from the Black side, I felt like, how do I represent myself again within this culture? So I made this piece in honor of that period. So I said no, because that was one of the interviews that I did. I said, when you come to, let me say, in Africa, sometimes it's hard for you to find, most of the research that I've done, it's hard for you to find the history in books, but you could find the history in fabrics. Someone could tell you that, this fabric was done within this year, and this was what happened. So, for example, in Ghana, there's a cloth, there's a kente fabric really called Fatia Fatankroma, which probably I'll talk about it, which was done for the first Prime Minister of Ghana. And when you look at the fabric, when he was overthrown, they changed the name. So it's like every cloth in Ghana, let me say, have a history. So for example, about 20 years ago, my grandmother died. And then within my family, they made a fabric and they named the fabric. So anytime you pick that fabric with a name, you know that, okay, this thing happened within this year. It was during my grandmother's funeral, that was when we made this kind of fabric. So in Ghana, most fabrics that you see people wearing, they all have a kind of a history behind it. Yeah. So this is the cloth that I was talking about, the Fatia Fatankroma. This is let me say, the cloth that was made for the first Prime Minister of Ghana when he married a lady from Egypt. So they said, his wife was called Fatia. They said Fatia deserves, like in English, Fatia deserves Nkrumah. So they made this cloth for the first Prime Minister. But when he was overthrown, they changed the name. They said one person cannot rule the country. But I think due to Pan-Africanism, they changed the name back to Fatia Fatankroma. Yeah.
Beautiful work.
Yeah. And this is my studio, this is some of my pieces, like this is how I make my pieces, So with my processes, I would say I make work using screen printing. And then I developed the ideas, color separation. I separate the colors. And then from there, I develop my screens, and then using powders, I print them like in stages. So most of my piece, sometimes a piece of work, I could have about maybe 4, 5, 6 screens to make a piece of work, or maybe sometimes 8, based on the colors, just to make a piece of one work. And then I fire them, sometimes I fire them about 3 times before I make like one piece of work. Yeah. So these are some of my printing procedures, yeah.
And then you, to slump the work afterwards, you choose which ones to fold.
Yes, which one? Yeah. So based on the meaning, based on the name of, the meaning of the colors and the patterns, and the symbols and how I want to communicate, I pick that and I slump it based on the meaning. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. So let me say, basically, this is about my piece, and I've done some exhibitions about, and then next year I'll be doing some exhibitions as well in collect art. That is next year, and next year as well I'll be sending some of my pieces to US. That's transitioning in Glasgow. That is in US, and I made Warm Glass and Glass House Society. So these are some of the exhibitions that and then some of my awards that I've won. Recently, I did a commission work, which let me say it's all over social media on Facebook. Yeah. And then this project, some of the works that I'm working on now is thinking, take me home. And then recently, the one that I'm working on now is Ghana Must Go. I'm trying to develop from the panels into a different art piece. So I'm making a work that I call it Ghana Must Go, which is a bag. So I'm trying to make from the fabric. Now I'm trying to weave it, or let me say, making a form of a bag, which I'm still working on. Yeah. Then these are some of the problems that I did encounter whilst, still learning the process. Yeah. So yeah. So this one was some of when I printed my enamel, I tried to slamp. So I did over fire the thing, and when I came, everything was just boom, shattered in the kiln.
Wow.
That was a big piece, yeah. And when I came, everything was just gone. And there's another piece, came in. There was the metal tube that I put in, had a contact with the glass, and then it snapped during the annealing period. And then, yeah. This was another one that I did, Yeah, my fine problems, It was too high, so when it was fusing, it touched the element. Yeah. And then, as I said, I see glass as a host, yeah, on which I feed. So
Go ahead and read that if you don't mind.
All right, okay, I'll read it. All right,
thank you.
I see glass as a host upon which I feed as a parasite to bring out my personal and cultural identity. So I feel like, glass is a host, and I'm a parasite to glass. So wherever I see glass, I'm going to parasite to bring my culture and personal identity within it. Yeah.
When you it's a great question that I wanted to ask you, which was a great question that was asked in the interview that you did that I saw from Bullseye. What message would you like the viewers of your work to feel?
One thing is, with glass, I would say for so many years, glass has been an art of the Western world, really, it's been perceived by, as something that's been done by the Western world. And I feel like it's time for the Black community, it also to identify ourselves within this material, So with the material, I just want to represent the Black community, the African identity within a new material, that, this material is something that I feel like it has become a symbol of communication, where artists use to communicate themselves and their identity. So I feel like now it's time for us also to showcase our talent within a different material. So I would say I want people to perceive it as a new way of introducing the African culture within a new material. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. The whole idea you're talking about with taking your own identity and putting it into your work.
Yeah.
It's so important. It's so missed and helps elevate the material in general.
Yeah.
You see so many people make Mickey Mouse or Mario, and you're like, how do you really have a cultural identity developed by something that has nothing to do with you at all? And it's perceived as art. And I find it's a real miss in this world where, you mentioned people like Preston Singletary and Eric Hilton, who really take their ethnicity and put it into what they create every single day and share it with the world and bring awareness as a whole. And you do the same. And it's very important, and it helps breathe a new life into the medium that it really needs to get out of the conundrum of just, pretty vessel or shiny thing on the wall, when the actual work out there has meaning. Go ahead and stop sharing your screen. We're looking at your personal email now. Go ahead and click on. Actually, I can probably kick you out if I try. Let me see. Yeah, I'll do that. There you go. No worries.
Yes, so that
no worries. Well, this was fantastic, and I'm
Yes,
so
yeah, I'm back
grateful.
now.
Yeah, you're back. Yeah,
Yes, I think, yeah,
and
I'm back now.
if you're, we'd love to have you visit us someday in the future and have an opportunity to show at the gallery and give people an experience of your work in person, because I think it's definitely needed. Glass as a material really needs that physical touch and that physical appearance.
Yeah.
But thank you for joining us today, Anthony. That was fantastic. I learned a lot, and I knew I would. And I'm sure everybody who's here today and joined us really caught a glimpse into your life and into your meeting. I'm looking forward to the future and watching. You've been through so much, and you continue to go through so much, as you told us about the attack on your car. And as time goes by, you took over control again.
Oh, all right.
Let me get it back from you. There we go. No worries. And so perfect. Well, thank you, Anthony, for joining us. If anybody has any questions, this will be the time. I'm getting lots of comments in the chat that everybody is enthralled and looking forward to seeing your work in person.
Yeah, and one thing that I always say is, when you go to museums, when you go to galleries, some of the expensive stuff, or let me say some of the most of the expensive artifacts, you find them within glass. And I feel like glass is a material where we use, in the olden days, like basically to store product. Like when you go to the lab, when you go to the pharmacist, when you go to, we store stuff in glass. But this time, I'm thinking, instead of storing storing stuff, this time I want to portray my culture, use the medium instead of storing. Like for storing, I'm trying to use the same material to tell my culture, instead of, so sometimes back home, I don't know over here, but what I know is in Ghana, when it comes to glass, we give glass, like, let me say, adult, not case, so we give that kind of importance to glassware. So even you could see that when it comes to glass marks and everything, glass is being put in a special place as compared to like cups, like mugs, ceramic pieces in the rest, because of how it is. So looking at that importance that we attached to glass as a material, I'm trying to elevate my culture to that kind of, importance that we attached, to glass. So I'm trying to feel that kind of two properties, that two properties,
Right,
as
bring it to the level.
Yeah, yeah.
Understand, and it's a great medium to use. We're all big fans here by far of the material and really see the potential in it. I find it to be incredibly optional. You could do almost anything to it. They are the pieces in that Anthony creates. Someone asked a question. They are designed to be hung on the wall, except for the ironing board piece, which has its own installation.
Yeah.
And they are, how are they hung? Just so I can get by that question too, Anthony, when they're mounted.
With the pieces on the wall, I do it like, I know I use water jet, and also I have transparent plastics, perspex, where I use water jet to cut them like a positive and then like a lock. So it goes down like a hook. So I fix the positive on the back of the glass, and I drill onto the wall. So like it sits on the hook. So that's how it is. Yeah.
Gotcha. Very, very simple. Got it. Completely
Very
understand.
simple.
Just mounts to the negative space in the piece.
Yeah.
Well, this wraps up our presentation today. Anthony, thank you so much for joining us today. I will be sharing this on YouTube later for everybody to enjoy who wasn't here today. I'm grateful for Anthony for joining us and taking the time. And should there be an option for available work, we'll be sharing that in the near future. And and again, if you have any questions about Anthony, I'd love to connect you. I'd love to see more places in America we could bring his work here, because we need it. And again, thank you, Anthony, for joining us today, and we'll talk all soon. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Okay.
All right, be well. Bye-bye.
Bye.